Welcome back to On the Light. I'm your host, Susan Johnson. In our previous conversation, Prashantji challenged us to rethink what it means to study the history of yoga. Before looking outward, he suggests that we first examine our own history, to honestly acknowledge our mistakes, express gratitude where it is due, and recognize the ways our past continues to shape who we are today. Today, he expands that idea in remarkable ways, inviting us to consider karma, memory, and the timeless nature of our existence. Please enjoy this episode of On the Light. Hello, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Last week, we embarked on this topic of the history of yoga. And you emphasized the importance of, if we are to understand the history of yoga, first we are to understand our own history, which I thought was
very true. Yeah. See, history of yoga objectively is very important. Secondly, history for mankind is also important. See, if you have hurt someone yesterday and you realize it little later, you say thank you, sorry, pardon me, etc. Or if you feel that you are obliged by someone and you realize it after a while, you say thank you very much for what you did. So sometimes we get the realization little later, not in real time. We realize that we must thank someone for what someone did yesterday. Or we should say sorry for what we did yesterday. And we also go through various stages of life, you see. You might realize when you are adult, you might remember or realize that you hurt someone, you hurt your parents when you were young or when you were teenagers. So it is perfectly right, justifiable that you say sorry for what you did, because at that point in time you did not feel you should say sorry. But now you have evolved in your life, such as youth to adulthood, and you realize your own mistakes. And therefore, it is perfectly right to say thank you or sorry, as the case may be. So, this is something unique to human consciousness. This may not be there for other birds and animals. And even if it is there, we don't realize how they reconcile. But we can certainly reconcile. We cannot be just in the present, and we cannot say, well, after all, I was a teenager then and I was immature, so I should not say sorry, etc. This is not right. If you realize that you did something for which you owe a sorry, you must say it. Or uh, if you owe a thanks to someone, you must say thank you when you realize it. This is an important thing in human consciousness. So if you have done something wrong yesterday, you do something today. If somebody has done something good for you yesterday, you consider it today and you reciprocate in some way. So that is characteristic to human mind and psyche. You should not have reservations, to be candid. You should not be having reservations. You should be very candid. That I owe a thanks for you. I realize it now. I will say now. I did not realize then in real time. So I'm sorry for that. So this is important for human psyche. We should not be hiding. We should not be concealing. Well, the day is gone. I troubled yesterday. Why should I not? The day is gone. Let me not bother. No, this is not right. uh, for what is called as human dharma. As and when you realize, you can definitely take measures. So we should also sometimes take account of what did we do in our life so far. Should we be thankful for which we have not extended the thanks? Or should we do we owe a sorry or apology to someone? If you realize it as and when, it should be done. So that is candidacy. And that is expected in a mind which is in spiritual pursuit. We cannot take escape saying that yesterday was yesterday, so I don't have to bother. Perhaps the person has also forgotten. Maybe a person has forgotten. Even then, you owe either an apology or thank you, thanks. And that should be done as and when you realize it. So this is with regards to present life. Now we have endless history. Now this is not uh, accepted by the materialistic modern man, because for modern man the reality is from birth to death. Nobody believes that there was existence prior to birth. So in our culture and in our dharmas, if you recall, I had spoken about pancha yagnas, which are characteristic to human culture and civilization. So one can go back to the talks that I have given on pancha yagna, and it is also in my book Discourses on Yoga. So just as unknowingly we commit mistakes in this life, we don't realize for lifetime. Unknowingly we owe someone gratitudes in the lifetime, but we don't realize it during the lifetime. But we have not lost the opportunity, because our philosophy says we are eternally there. We are eternally existing. So suppose I don't realize that I owe thanks to you, and I don't thank you at all in this life. My opportunity is not gone. I may not realize it by next life, but then it's a provisional thanks that can be given. That I do not know if you have done something good. So these are a provisional thanks I am extending. This was in our culture. Or I do not know if I have hurt you, offended you. So this is the provisional apology that I am extending. So I am not sure whether I owe somebody the thanks or I owe somebody the apology. I have no idea. I do not know. Yet we should do it. For the simple reason, the logic is that it is human to err. As human beings, we are going to commit errors. Now, this will be accepted by all mankind. Nobody will say it is not true or it doesn't happen. So now we have been existing as human beings in our past incarnations. So knowingly or unknowingly, we will have committed errors. And therefore, we have provisional errors as well. It is one of the types of karma is called atonement, prayaschitta karma. Knowingly, unknowingly, I might have offended someone, might have vexed or tormented someone, hurt someone. So still we can make a provisional apology, not knowing whom to apologize, but we want to apologize. So whoever it may be, so whomso it may concern, I extend my apologies hereby for unknown actions of mine which might have hurt, which might be offending, which might have been offending, which might be insulting, offending, vexing, tormenting. So, if today we realize as human beings, we make errors. We have been committing errors, we are committing errors, we will commit errors because, after all, we are human beings. So, even in our past incarnations, as human beings, we will have certainly committed errors. Now, we do not know them, but we are sure that we have committed. With respect to whom we have committed, we are not sure. And we do not know whether that person is now incarnating or incarnated. We have no idea because we ourselves do not know our incarnations. But however, this is the what you call premise that being human beings, we will have committed errors, mistakes, blunders. We must have vexed. Even as being animals, we might have vexed, tormented, because we might have been any form of life, human to subhuman, or even superhuman. So also we might be owing gratitude to someone in our previous lives. Now see, I will have gratitude for my father in this life, and that will be uh, quite perfectly justifiable, and it will be quite logical. But I do not know who were my parents in my last life. The parents are always gracious. So we owe our gratitude to our parents of present life as well as past lives. We can't say we will forget that. So as much as we have gratitude for our parents of present life, we must have gratitude for our parents of our retrospective lives. And therefore, in our dharma, we have rituals, we have processes. We do not know who is that. So, whomsoever it may concern, I express my gratitudes, whoever were my parents in my previous lives. Maybe I did not have gratitudes, I did not treat my parents well in my previous lives. And now I realize that a parent should be treated well. So, when I realization now, it is possible that I did not have realization earlier. It is a possibility. So, in case of such a thing, we have certain rituals or certain forms whereby we will do for something for the lives retrospectively. Either we owe gratitudes to someone, heartfelt thanks to someone, we are obliged to someone, or maybe we have offended someone. And therefore, that is taken care of in our dharma.
Mhm.
So this is important to know that we all of us have an history extending into previous incarnations. It's not that we have only history of present life, that I was a baby, I was an infant, then I became a baby, then I became a child, and I became a teenager. So this is quite empirical fact, empirical reality, but there is so much of reality beyond empirical reality.
Mhm.
So we have been having history, we have had history, and therefore we must take cognizance that probably we were uh, what you call small hearted people in our previous incarnations. In that case, we'd have to do something. Somebody was large hearted, perhaps, and uh, we did not reciprocate. So, therefore, in Adhyatma and in our Dharma, this is considered. And therefore, many of the rituals, tempura people will say this is meaningless. These are rituals. They have nothing to do. There is no logic. It is just a ritual for ritual's sake. We don't understand the purport of ritual. And therefore, if you don't understand the purport, import of ritual, you might think this is waste of time and this is crazy. This is crazy to be doing for our retrospective life something. But in our culture, this was there because we have history extending from time without beginning. We have been creatures, we might have troubled someone. We were human beings, we might have troubled someone. We were creatures, somebody perhaps was our benefactor. We were human beings, so maybe something was benefactor, someone was benefactor. Now not known. Even not known, we should know for sure that we had benefactors and we were benefactors. We were beneficiaries and we also afflicted troubles to various lives. Now, suppose for my retrospective parents, I have to do something. I will do something as parents, as my ex parents or previous life parents. But it is also possible that the parents of my previous lives or previous life might be in a animal form, creature form. It is possible because we can reincarnate in 8.4 million classes of life. So it is possible that my remote parents are or parents of previous life are today dogs and cats and elephants and birds or whatnot. Some life form, maybe even plants and trees. So we take care of them as well. We do not know what has happened to our parents who were parents of the previous lives. And even if we have lost the parents in present life, we do not know in what form they are existing because they are eternally existing according to the metaphysics. So the parents of present life who perhaps have died 10, 20, 10, 20, 30 years back or even 5, 10 years back will have reincarnated. So they might have reincarnated in human form. So let us be humane to human beings. Let us not offend anyone. And let us make provisional kind of expression of gratitudes or expression of sorry. Uh, and therefore, this is with respect to any life. It is not that once you are a human being, you are always a human being. Or in all incarnations, you are a human being. So that is why this is the wider view taken by our dharma. The Sanatan Dharma, the beginningless Dharma, the endless Dharma, the eternal Dharma. And therefore, we have different rituals or different observances. For a man of logic and man of intellectual rationalism might say that this is all utter nonsense. It is all meaningless. This is all blind faith. So we don't enter with arguments with those people. There is no point in argumenting with those people. We should know the probabilities. We should know the possibilities. That's why we need to be adhyatmic seekers. Adhyatma will tell you about so many dimensions of realities of ours. And therefore, we have to conduct our life in a particular way in the light that we have been existing from time without beginning. We have had associations with different people who might have been in different life forms. So we take care of plants. We have obeisance for plants, trees, vegetation. We pray them. We worship them. Any life form, we worship them. We pray them. If they are uh, engendering our existence, then we'll perhaps defend ourselves or perhaps attack them. Suppose at this moment a cobra comes in here and hisses at me, raising the hood. I will have to take measures against the cobra because it is threat to my life. So we say when it's a threat to your life, you should do what is logically right. But otherwise, you don't have to necessarily take measures. It is going on somewhere, you are saying the cobra is moving, let it go, it's going into the forest, let it go. Why get behind it and kill it? So that's why we have in worship form, you will see that I know you have visited Bellore. In front of our hall, you have seen a cobra temple, and there are cobras, snakes, we worship them. So we worship even animals. That's called Pashu Yagna. We have Yagna for all life forms because we are obliged by them. We might have been ungrateful to them. And that is why we have all these rituals, which are very complicated and cannot be really, they are very opaque as well for intellectual people, logical people, people with reasoning, etc. And therefore, these rituals are subjected to criticism. But this is Adhyatma. Everything is possible. I could have been a bird, animal, insect, worm. My parents could be today in form of worms and creatures and insects or trees or plants. It is possible. So why uh, be indifferent to life forms? We are not indifferent to life forms. So that is why there is this provisional. So this is the about the dimension of history which Adhyatma gives us vision about, and that is so important. So that is one thing. That means we know that we have history endless, retrospectively. So we do not know all that we might have committed as cobra, as a mosquito, as a bed bug, as human being, or whatever. And therefore, we consider these things about our own history. Now, the other thing is human faculty has this aspect of memory. Suppose you visit a site um, and then you see, you have appreciation, you like it, or you dislike it, or whatever, you have your own assessment and judgment of experience. But then you have not revisited that site for another 30 years. It's not that every day you remember. For instance, recently you went to that Vatika, which was in memorial for Guruji. It's not that every day you will remember, every day you will recall, every day you will think of it. It will slip away from your mind. But if you come back to that site again after 25 years, you will say, you will remember, yes, I had come here. Yeah. I had visited this place. So memory is not all the time on surface, but the memory will surface. When it has stimulant, memory will surface. So after 50 years, you might return and you will still remember, yes, I had come here. It was like this then. Now it is like that. So this memory, smruti, surfaces even with a long gap. And this has been discussed in Yoga Sutras by me. If you uh, read the Smruti Vritti, and metaphysical smriti, which comes in the fourth chapter. So, just to give an example, suppose I have committed very sinister act during the lifetime, and then I entitled to become a dog or cobra in my next incarnation. It is said that I will have the smriti memory corresponding to that life form. Not that I remember cobra, not that I remember dog when I am dying, but that is a metapsychical memory which will surface not in my mind but in my psyche, and therefore I will be impelled into that womb to become dog or cobra. It's not that one remembers cobra to become a cobra. One remembers dog to become a dog. It's not mnemonic memory, but there is a smriti, which is metapsychical smriti, which impels us into our next incarnation. So this I have discussed in the fourth chapter. Now maybe that your birth in dog class was 100 incarnations ago, 1000 incarnations ago, but you have committed such karma that it becomes a stimulant for the samskars to surface. So they are called samskars. And samskars surface not necessarily the mnemonic memory. And the samskars will impel you to go into that life form. So this is a fabulous memory, is a fabulous aspect to life, not only human form, but the very life. It can be any kind of life in 8.4 million classes of life, but the memory, samskars are so important. The modern science has no clue to these samskars. But the samskars are there, there's a work. Now, I was previously a dog, maybe 50 incarnations ago, but how do I remember? Because I've done karmas which entail me that I should become a dog in the next life, and therefore the samskars are tapped, and samskars come to surface, and they impel me into womb of a dog to take birth as a dog. So this is what our philosophy has divulged, and so that memory is called samskars. That memory is called vasana. It's not that one will remember dog and become a dog, but the vasanas or samskars of dog class will surface because there is a stimulant for it, which is my karmas. I've done vicious karmas, obnoxious karmas, horrendous karmas, and therefore I entail a birth in that class. So I will get samskars on surface, and I will be just pushed, impelled to take a birth in that womb. So we have these concepts of samskars and vasanas, which are forms of smriti. We don't say smriti is memory. Memory is smriti. No, memory has a limited scope because that's a word in English. And English language doesn't have presumption or premise that we are eternally existing. And therefore, the language has a limitation. While in our language, samskars and vasanas and smriti even has a wider meaning. It is literally rendered smriti as memory. This is unjustifiable because this is the premise that we are eternal beings. We have traveled through all the life forms, many life forms, and we will be traveling to various life forms. So, well, this is our history, endless history. Now, the word history for this is also not justifiable because in the modern world, what is the subject of history or astrology, whatever it might be? It is history of something which is around us. And it has a limit how far you can dig out the history. There's a limitation. While we have been existing from time immemorial, so there is no limitation to dig out our history, in the sense our itihas. History has word itihas. Again, the itihas has a wider scope. History doesn't have wider scope because of the basic absence of premise that the whole universe is timeless. We are timeless. Now, this premise is not there behind the words that you have in English language and other languages, modern languages. While only primordial language and dependent on it, the other vernacular languages have this wider scope. Anyway, let's not go deep into it. The point is, history of ourselves is also important. Um, I should talk on this subject on a separate occasion. We have a concept called satsang. Satsanga, sat, English, it might be rendered as have a good company. It is not susangati. Susangati means good company. There is a word for it. To be having good company of people around, to be in good company of things and people. So that is called susangati. That is susangati. Sangati means association. Su means good. Good associations. But satsanga is not good associations. Sat means truth. So it is association with the truth. Now, what is the truth? We are eternal beings. We have traveled through possibly all the life forms, not only on the terrestrial plane, but on the universal plane. We have perhaps taken birth in various life forms, because there are celestial life forms, there are terrestrial life forms, there are infernal life forms. That means it is universal. So we can at least have possibility of our history as to where we all might have gone. Now, what satsanga does is a selective thing that it does. It doesn't dig out all your bad history. It doesn't dig out all your vicious things that you have done in your previous incarnations. That is why satsanga has to be done. The satsanga will selectively surface only good deeds, virtuous deeds, meritorious deeds that you did. Where you were good in previous incarnations will be brought to surface. What all you did in previous lives will not surface. That doesn't require to be surfaced, because then destiny is going to identify and give you the fruits of your worldly activities, good or bad. Good or bad worldly activities, the fruitions are going to be, they take care of it, and you will get the corresponding fruition. You are done good, you will get sukham. You are done bad, you will get dukkham. But if you have done something transcendental, then satsang only will select and choose that and will surface it into your mind psyche. And that's how you will be differently disposed person. Mm. So that is why we do satsang. It is not just having good company, here good, here noble, see noble. It is not that the meaning there. The satsanga has its own sadhana, it has its own practices, and it will selectively bring the exalted paramarthik, that means ultimately good that you did in your previous incarnations. They will come handy, and they will definitely be great endowments. So if I remember something exaltedly I did in my last life, it is going to give me advantage. But if I get to know that I've done something obnoxious or horrendous thing in a previous life, that is going to spoil my life. So that doesn't surface. Satsanga does selective uplifting of samskars. Now, only good samskars, noble samskars, transcendent samskars, real samskara, sat. There should be truth. If I had done some virtue, it is not a truth. Every virtue is not truth. And that will be surfaced by the karma management, by the fruition, karma vipak, the fruition of karmas. But satsanga will choose and select that which you have done exaltedly. Suppose, because see, whatever I am today, it is accidental. Particular karma package has been at the base of my life, which is called destiny. Not by all past lives are substrate of present life. There is a package of previous karmas which form a package for present life, and that is called destiny. But there are so many lives which are not in the package of the destiny. There are so many acts and deeds which are not in the package of destiny today. And satsanga does that. And that is why satsanga has to be done. So you become much more noble, and therefore you become much more philosophized, and make these provisional thanks and provisional apologies, etc., uh, quite candidly and sincerely. So it is not just a ritual to say thanks for all those who helped me in my previous lives, sorry for all those whom I vexed in my previous lives. It is not like that. There should be intent behind such a act. And satsang does that. It makes one conscientious.
Mm.
So I will be conscientiously saying sorry provisionally for whomsoever it is concerning. I will say sorry. I do not identify, I do not know. Yet I can allocate that for them. Or thanks, gratitudes. Whomsoever it concerns, who have been my benefactors, I say conscientiously thanks. It is different to say something conscientiously, which is because of the samskars. So, so that's the point I want to suspend it today. Satsanga does that. That is why Adhyatma speaks of satsanga. It comes in the foremost position. Satsanga. Otherwise, there is no spiritual pursuit. It is all run up, or it will not be quintessential um, spiritual pursuit at all. It might be auxiliary, it might be complementary, it might be assisting factor, etc. Now, now Guruji, whatever he achieved, it is not right to say it was lifetime achievement. But this is fashionable in the present world. The whole world will say this was his lifetime achievement. This is not true, because several lives have contributed, his own lives have contributed. In this life, he claimed that he was disciple of Krishnamacharya. He did not know who was his guru in previous lives. He did something in previous lives, therefore, he could take a quantum leap. Now, see, to take a very practical example, I suppose you have some siblings. Do you have any siblings, sisters who are born with you in your family?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a sister and a
Why?
brother.
Okay. Why you are not identical to them and they are identical to you? You have your own baggage of karmas. That is why you are differently disposed, maybe than your sister or your brother or your sisters or your brothers. Your parents have taken care of all of you without any partiality. They were even to all of you. But why is it that you are different than others? So in siblings, why a particular person is different than any other person in that family or in siblings? because each one has karmic baggage. Each one has samskars to support the life. Why are you so dedicated and interested in yoga while your parents were not, perhaps? Or maybe your siblings are not, perhaps, or were not, perhaps. Why is it that you are interested? So that means you have your own baggage of previous karmas, which have given you a unique kind of samskars. So you are more disposed to philosophy. You are more disposed to the yoga and philosophy, or very abstruse aspects of uh, mysticism and metaphysics. Why others are not interested? So you will not know who was, or who with whom you were associated in previous lives. Who were your parents in your previous lives? With whom you were you associated in previous lives? And because of that association, you are what you are today. Without that association, you would not be what you are today. And that's why the past uh, manifestations are so important. So Guruji, perhaps Guruji certainly did not know who was his guru in previous life, but he certainly had one. And that is why he became unique. Because as all of you know, Krishnamacharya has three schools. One is Viniyoga school, the other one is Ashtanga Vinyas school, and the third one is Iyengar Yoga school. Now, these three are so divergent, stemming from same source. It is because the karma baggage that Desikachar had, who was son of Krishnamacharya, Pattabhi Jois had, who uh, took the line of Ashtanga Vinyas, and then Guruji, whose yoga the world called as Iyengar Yoga. That means they had their own lineage coming from previous lives. They had imbibed something. They came with a karmic baggage, and therefore, three disciples were looking at three different directions. So this is in Adhyatma, the tradition, the parampara. It is not family-based parampara. That will be nepotism.
Mm.
So Guruji was in some other lineage in the previous life, but yet he did something in the realm of yoga, which came handy, and therefore he could take a quantum leap in this time. He had that uh, platform to launch his yoga because of his yoga that he practiced with another guru. So this is the legacy parampara. It is not family based, because Guruji was not taking birth in the same family. It is not that I was taking I have taken the birth in same family last several incarnations, and I will be taking birth in same family hereafter. No chance, no possibility, more impossible than any iota of possibility. So we don't have this concept of lineage that it should be passed on from generation to generation to generation. It doesn't happen. It is Adhyatma. One should be disposed for that. But the parampara doesn't have ancestral background. So Guruji did not have the same ancestry in the previous life. I did not have the same ancestry in my previous life. So that ancestry has also contributed for what I am today. And Guruji also, that ancestry which was a previous life or previous lives, contributed for what he was in present life. So it is quite intriguing, and it is very, very, very complex, very terse. It is not easy to uh, have a breakthrough to comprehend. This is not for mankind to comprehend at all. We should not look for comprehension of all these. It's not possible at all, because this is timeless history. So this is the history is very fascinating idea and concept. I'm calling it history, but we won't call it history, because history is, as we understand in the present world, is a particular faculty in academics.
Mhm.
So it deals with some history of country, history of uh, race, history of location, history of uh, a particular man. What is that history? How long does it? How back does it go? Nobody speaks about Einstein's previous life. Who was he? What is his history? They will say about childhood. He was like this as a child. Nobody will open out the history of his previous life. So the history that we are discussing has a different connotation. That's important to be taken note of. So Guruji did yoga in different eras, in different eons, in different eras. So he was a 20th and 21st century yogacharya, but his pursuit was there in 19th century, 18th century, 17th century, 16th and 15th and 14th, which really made him what he was in this life. So there's contribution of, say, 14th century yoga for his 20th century, 21st century yogacharya uh, status. 14th century, 15th century, 16th century. And we have such a long tradition, therefore we are also inclined to look into history of yoga.
Mhm.
I often said in the classes, what is today's yoga? Fitness, wellness, a remedy for today's maladies. But that is our concept of yoga today, that yoga is a remedy, yoga is health science, well-being science, wellness science, or philosophy, you might call it, whatever. But then this concept was different. Wellness and well-being 500 years back, 1000 years back, 5000 years back, 10,000 years back was totally different. It is not as it is today. And therefore, what was really the um, definition of yoga in different eras has to be understood, or the signature condition of yoga, or the manifestation of yoga in different times. This is important for students of yoga to really bother about.
Mhm.
If you are a student of yoga, you must have inquisitiveness. How was the yoga 200 years back, 500 years back, 10,000 years back, 5,000 years back, Mahabharata time, Ramayana time? So it should
Yeah.
be this that curiosity you must have to really have some idea about how yoga flourished in other eras. So you will get some aspect of yoga if you are turned yourself to the history of yoga. Otherwise, it will not occur to you in present scenario. So if you go to, say, archaeological site, you are taken some 2000 years back, 5000 years back, and that changes your thought process. It can change. Not it will change, it can change. If you know the history of your country 5000 years back, 10,000 years back, that will definitely contribute to your thought process, and it can change your approach in looking at the present, how to
Mhm.
look at the present. So
Yeah.
the history for in human pursuit is so important. Study of history, view of history, understanding the history. We should not be so pragmatic that we'll turn our backs to history, because it is not true that we did not have history. It is not true that anything doesn't have history. Everything that is around you has a history. So there is no point in turning blind eyes towards that. Then you are just a pragmatic person, or you are a dogmatic person. So the dogmatism can end in non-pragmatism. So we should be beware of this, that being human beings, I should know the history of what is around me, not for practical purpose, for my evolution purpose, for my comprehension purpose. So today in front of me, I have this smartphone which is G4. But then I should be curious to know what was G3, G2, G1. But it is not, it doesn't have practical purpose. But if you have curiosity, I will definitely be curious about how was G1 and how was G2 and G3, and now today I have G4. But not that everyone should look into that. They are so practical minded, there are so many other priorities. But philosophical minded person should have different priority. Materialistic minded person will have different priorities. So we don't expect materialistic person to think about that. But suppose I'm a technocrat, I'm a uh, cell phone technologist, I will definitely bother about how the today's generation G4 or G5 has come about. What is the basis for it? But the user of cell phone will not bother. He need not bother. He is so materialistic. So materialism, stark materialism, is dangerous because you will slowly lose the humanness. This I have often said in my class. If you are very practical minded and if you adhere to practical mindedness, if you embrace practical mindedness, you will lose the humanness. Because practical mindedness, it has another meaning, is to go after advantages. What is advantage to me? Consider my advantage. Now, this is self centricity. This is self centric. This will make the man, human being, slowly depreciated. Humanness will depreciate by practical mindedness. It should be there as much as required. Like how much salt do you take in your meals? So discrete amount of salt for the sake of taste and for the sake of what your nutrition, etc. You won't take salt tablespoonful for as a nutrition, because that won't be nutrition. That will be poisonous. That will be killing. So discreetly, at least, we must understand there is much more beyond being practical in life. If you are very practical minded, you will not handle your spouse. If you are very practical minded to core, you will not handle your children well. You will not handle your grandchildren well. You will not handle your generations well. You will not handle the society around you well. You will not handle your family around you well. If you are practical minded to core, so you should be practical minded, discreetly required for dynamics of life. As much as salt comes in your meals, it should come that much. But for a student of philosophy, student of yoga, must be different set of priorities. So I'm not making a mandate that every student of yoga should look into history of yoga. First, develop the conscience, develop the samskriti of yoga, culture of yoga. Then you yourself will be drawn towards history. I don't have to make it a mandate. It should not be mandatory for everyone. Look into history of yoga. Not necessary, because if it doesn't make a meaning for them, why will they sincerely pursue? They have to have realization that I should understand the history of yoga. When there is such a long and rich heritage, which spans to some not only thousands of years but millions of years. So if you are that much sensitive and conscientious, then it will be natural that one will turn to history. I don't want to make it as mandate in syllabus that all of you should look into history. If you feel it is necessary, as and when you feel it, please don't have reservations. Mhm. And try to dive as far as possible into history of yoga, because some gems have gone, because even the rich diamonds and glorious diamonds, you have to excavate some hundreds of meters and thousands of meters to get the gold and diamond.
Mm.
So we'll have to excavate our yoga, our life, ourselves, and yoga that we are pursuing. Again, I say it's not a mandate for every student of yoga. You have to reach a level of yoga. You must have particular cultural wavelength, and then you will certainly spontaneously will be drawn towards excavation. So you will get the diamonds. Diamonds are not fallen on the ground. They are in the mines. You'll have to dig the mine. Then only you will get your hands to diamonds and pearls and all these jewels. So if you want jewels of yoga, at some stage you have to go for excavation. I think that should be enough for the day.
One thing that
Yeah,
you're speaking today about the past lives, and I was thinking about the sutra in the second chapter on aparigraha that says that knowledge of past and future lives on
correct.
brief.
Yeah, correct.
Is that
Yeah, that is true.
possessions, the materialism that you're talking about?
Yeah, no, no, it is like this. When he says aparigrastare janma katantha sambodaha, it is not that it will give you review of all your past life, that you were a dog, you had beaten someone, you were a cobra, you had stinking to someone, etc. It doesn't give you that. It gives you the samskars, which are filtered and, as I said, selected. You get selected view of the life of your previous incarnations. You should not get all views. It will create a problem. Suppose I realize that uh, a person was mother in my last life, and that mother is now today a servant in my house.
Mm.
It will create a problem for mind.
Yeah.
And that's why when Aparigraha speaks about, it only tells you about the gems of your previous lives. It gives your gems to your hands. It doesn't give all the dirt. It doesn't give you the entire the pebbles, etc., which is done in excavation. So much of debris are there. It doesn't give you debris. It only gives you jewels. While in mine, so much of debris has to be turned out, hundreds of billions of tons to get hold of a diamond.
Mhm.
But the Aparigraha Sutra says that means it will give you that selective aspects. Aparigraha is manifestation of satsanga, which I spoke about a while ago today.
Mhm.
It is satsanga. Aparigraha is fruition of satsanga. And that is what the satsanga does. It doesn't give you view of why do you want view of your previous life? Who were your parents? Who was your spouse? Who was your enemy? Who was your rival? Who was your friend? Maybe your friend is now a dog there. What are you going to do with the dog then? It's a street dog. What will you do? So we should not know all those things. So it's a selective memory. So satsanga does that. It will pick up, select and choose the memory which is going to be boost for your spiritual process. Not that it gives you review of past life. This is be extremely tormenting. If I get my last life of my previous lives, it will be tormenting. So I will be identifying who was my spouse, who are my parents, who are my brothers and sisters, and that will create a problem for me. So that's what I today said about. It's much to be spoken about. But that is satsanga. Aparigraha is satsanga. Unless there is satsanga, you won't attain aparigraha at all. Otherwise, we are all collectors. We collect everything we want. We want. We want. We want. We don't distinguish between the needs and greeds. The other day I said in the class, what is your need? What do you need and what is your greed? This must be identified. So aparigraha means it weeds out the greed from your life. Now, if there is no greed, understand that life, how the life will be, how it will be virgin life, and genuine, authentic needs will be identified. Quintessential needs are only needs. Otherwise, we will see that they're all greeds. They're all greeds. We have confused between needs and greeds because of material gravities.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. This has been wonderful. Thank you for listening to On the Light. I hope this conversation gives you something to contemplate in your own practice. This episode is part of an ongoing series with Prashant Iyengar, exploring the history of yoga. Over the coming episodes, we'll continue to examine this subject through the lens of yoga philosophy and the timeless wisdom of our tradition. In today's discussion, Prashantji mentions that we can refer to his talks of yajna. Those talks that he's referring to are from INAUS's Season 2 of interactive sessions with Prashant Iyengar on the philosophy of yoga, which begin in September of 2022. So that's Season 2. The first 4 sessions of that season are devoted entirely to yajna and provide an excellent foundation for many of the ideas discussed in today's conversation. Again, you can access those talks through the INAUS website at inaus.org/media. If you enjoy On the Light, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Click on Support the Show in the show notes. A small monthly donation helps support the continued production of this podcast. Thank you for listening to On the Light. Until next time, namaskar.